Hello and welcome into another edition of CreekCast. I'm your host, Brooks Carter, joined by head football coach Drew Carter. We are into late March here, as if you go on the website today, at some point in the last 24 hours, you would have seen the ticker hit 150 days until the kickoff of the 2026 season against Northwest Whitfield. So we're into the thick of the winter weight program. We've got I will call it fundraising season. It kind of feels like a season here. We've got three events coming up here. One next week, one in April, one in May. A lot of stuff going on right now. We've finalized some scheduling stuff. We had one kind of little scheduling thing still hanging out there. The last time you saw CreekCast was the special edition with our schedule reveal. Coach, welcome in. Been a couple of months since we've checked in here on a CreekCast, and tell me a little bit about how everything's going this time of year. It is kind of a down time of year, but I know as the head coach, you're always thinking about what's next, and it is a less busy time of year, but that doesn't mean it's not busy.
Yeah, that's usually I get that question when I run into people around school or around town. It's usually how's the off season going, and it's usually not really an off season going on there. But because of that, that this is when the majority of the work is done for our fundraising and our budget stuff with our quarterback club. So it is busy with that.
So coming up next week, we're going to have the reverse raffle. I think this is our third annual event of that. We've always had that towards the end of March every year. It's been a very successful event. Very gracious to Red Wolf Grill for hosting that again this year in downtown Coahulla. And it's really kind of turned into a fun little community event now that we've had the last few years. I think we even did something a couple of weeks ago, get a phone call from quarterback club president Corey Schultz saying, "Hey, we're gonna hammer this and get some tickets sold tonight." And it's an opportunity to win $10,000, which is a nice little chunk of change. And then also it's an opportunity to support our football program. This has been a really successful event, as I mentioned, and honestly, a really fun event. One of the more fun events we have on our calendar.
Yeah, you kind of check two boxes with it when we do that. You're obviously trying to make as much money as we can because we usually sell anywhere between 150 and 180 tickets. It's kind of been where we are. So we're putting, $5,000 to $8,000 in our pockets, which goes a long way with our being able to support our program, being able to support our players. And then the other part of it is one of our missions that we try to do as a quarterback club is to try to have a couple of community events each year, one being kickoff at the Creek and the reverse raffle being the other. So it is neat. The fact that Red Wolf Grill is really the kind of the only town in our zone here of Whitfield County. It's neat to kind of have that area where we can have a rallying point there and make it a community event. And they got a great venue there and do a great job of hosting us.
Yeah, so that'll be coming up next Tuesday on the 31st, and you don't have to be present to win. I did want to state that. That's always get that question. You don't have to be present to win. You can buy a ticket if your name gets called. You're not going to get skipped over or anything like that. Tons of other opportunities to win too. There'll be multiple drawings throughout the night, and you'll be able to win other prizes, some cash prizes, some gift cards, some stuff like that. That'll be drawn throughout the night. Are we going to be doing Facebook Live? Is that the plan again this year?
Yeah, we'll get that scheduled up. I guess sometime later on this week, or maybe Monday next week. That way, it's ready to go there, and the people that want to take a look that are not in town, and they can keep track of things. So it'll be on there.
Yeah, I know we have a few people who are maybe family members that live out of state that buy tickets that can't come. They like to check in and see on that. We'll have some players, some coaches, lots of Colt country out for that. The other couple of events I wanted to run through here off the top of today's edition of CreekCast, We're going to have our quarterback club golf tournament a little earlier this year than usual. I think in the last couple of years we'd had it either at the end of May or first week in June. We're going to have it on April 23rd this year. Same price point on that. $400 for a foursome team, 125 for individuals. That'll be at Knob North, and that's been a successful event over the years. And then, I've always heard that once you reach a certain age as a man, you either get into golf or you get into fishing. And Coach Carter is not a golfer. So he is not into golf, but he appreciates people who golf. You wanted to do something this year from a fundraising standpoint, an event that you could actually participate in and have a lot of fun with. So we're having the first ever fishing tournament for Coahulla Creek football, and that's going to be taking place on May 16th at Lake Chickamauga, Grasshopper Creek boat ramp. And that's presented by North Georgia Toyota. So very thankful to the guys out at North Georgia Toyota who have always been a proud supporter of our program over the years. And that's a $100 entry fee. And there is a lot of stuff you can do there. Another chance to win some big cash prizes, $1,000 first place guaranteed, and got a limit of 60 boats there. So if you haven't signed up, go ahead and do that. All this information for these two items is on our website. So really excited. I know you're really excited about that one. The golf tournament's always a fun event as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned me not being much of a golfer. I was able to kind of turn some of that over. I had a handful of dads that enjoy doing it. They've been playing in it the last few years. So I was able to delegate that to them, and they're going to do a better job with it because they've already come to me with some ideas that's going to make it more fun, probably make us a little bit more money too, and make the event even better. You feel like we've done a pretty good job being able to give some good payouts and put out a good event the past few years. We always serve them lunch at the end, and have a chance for the hole-in-one car. I think we've got it on there as a 2026 Tacoma sponsored by, so we get our fishing tournament by North Georgia Toyota. Our golf tournament's actually sponsored by Toyota of Cleveland with that hole-in-one vehicle there. So got some good sponsors there, like you mentioned. They're doing a great job with it. And then we've got a good setup, I feel like, and excited about doing our inaugural fishing tournament up there at Lake Chickamauga. Again, you mentioned Corey's name, and then our dad, they kind of spearheaded that because they're both boat captains for a couple of teams for the regional, our area of bass fishing high school teams. So they've got some good contacts and some good experience in that area. So they're heading that thing up. So we've got it in good hands and some people that are going to run some really good events. So if you're signed up for those, you're going to have a great time and have really good events. If you're not signed up, you need to do it because you're missing out on some awesome events.
Yeah, the fishing tournament, as soon as I posted that, we immediately had some trash talking going on social media. Rising senior starting linebacker River Choate said, "Where do I get my $1,000 at?" He's a member of the fishing team at Coahulla Creek High School. That's his other sport or that he does, and so he's already assuming he's going to take home the big prize. So I don't know what you have to say about that, but he was immediately trash talking as soon as the event was announced.
I've never fished with River, nor have I seen him fish. All I know is I've seen some of his pictures of weigh-ins, and I don't know if that's a shoe-in for the guaranteed win based on some of the guys that I know fish regularly on Chickamauga. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, he's going against some grown men here, not just other high school kids. Not saying that high school kids can't outfish some grown men here, but so that should be fun. That's a part of the camaraderie. There is a little nothing like a little fun trash talking to get the competitive spirit going. But speaking of River and the rising senior class. They've really gotten in the weight program. And, I've talked to you over the phone with our conversations and stuff about how the winter weight program is going. And I did want to touch in on that here. And, got a lot of guys back in this senior class for sure. Got some guys who contributed a lot as sophomores last year who are rising juniors. And you've talked, though, about this senior class and how you've seen some guys who maybe haven't had to be in leadership roles. You've started to see them kind of step up into leadership roles already here in the winter weight program, which is really promising to hear.
It is, and without going into too much detail, what we're really seeing is some of it's with a little bit of a push, some of it's happened naturally. You're developing a player-led team is what I'm starting to see, which is very exciting. And I've told a lot of people, a lot of that's a learning curve for me as a relatively young in the head coaching profession. Of how do you harbor that? How do you encourage that? To get guys to handle it the right way. And I feel like we've got some guys that have kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and done it naturally because that's their personality. And some of them, just because they're committed to the team, have been willing to step out of their comfort zone and do some things that we as coaches can't do because peer-to-peer leadership and relationships generally work out better and you get better response than you do coach to player.
Yeah, and last off season, it was the implementation of some new speed training, stuff that y'all had. I know you went down to a camp down in Mobile, Alabama last year, and that was a really exciting thing that you added into the off season last year. I imagine that's still a huge part of what you're doing this off season in the winter weight program, and I feel like Coach E's always got something new up his sleeve every year with kind of trying to get that competitive edge on the other teams in the area. What is the winter weight program look like this year, and is there anything kind of new wrinkles added into it?
I don't know if there's new wrinkles. It's continued growth and progression on what we were doing. But I guess the main point of emphasis has been an element of competition. And you mentioned the stuff we started kind of newer last year with the speed. We got that laser system, the dasher system, being able to hold guys accountable to so that way they've got concrete numbers of are they doing what they're coached to do on those sprint days. And we've got hard numbers to show and prove yes or no. So they're used to that. And then you combine that with our cycles that we have in the weight program where they're maxing out. The element of competition, that's the emphasis that we've got going on. Obviously, starting off where they're competing with each other, but it's got to be competing with yourself every day, and hopefully that becomes habit forming, and we get the results that we want. Come August, September.
Yeah, the Creek Stud Challenge, a part of that element of competition, something that Coach Carter and the staff came up with last year, where during max out week and over the course of the winter, it's a point-based system where you can kind of, achieve Creek Stud status, and they get to go put their name on the board and check off when they've achieved, earned some points on that. That's hanging up in the weight room, and I think that's really been a big thing the last couple of years. That's probably incentivized the weight room in a way that it had not previously been incentivized.
Yeah, because it's easier to, I guess, hide from those things when it's just you're looking at your number. But the fact that they go up there, I mean, on the last day, we call out everybody that gets to sign the board, and then they voted on a T-shirt this year. Last year we did the dog tags, so kind of let them have some choice and some say so in that. But when you're looking around and you realize you're not one of the guys that didn't get to sign that board and doesn't have one of those T-shirts that can wear around school, it's a pretty good wake up call.
Yeah, I would say so. There's that's peer pressure in a good way there. When
That's
you look
right.
around and see that I'm not a part of something that I feel like maybe I want to be a part of, so I got to work harder. Last thing I wanted to get to here on the CreekCast today was we finalized our other preseason game. If you go back to our schedule announcement, which you can, if you've been on our website, it's right on our homepage. I've updated it there. We just haven't formally announced anything on social media. But fun opportunity. We had Dalton, which we're really excited about, going to Harmon Field for the preseason game. That's our second preseason game on August 14th. The week before that, on Friday, August 7th, we're going to make a fun little trip up to Ray County in Dayton, Tennessee. and take on Ray County, a couple other schools too. In that one, it's going to be a handful of teams up there, and we'll get a chance to pop the pads with and get a look with a couple of different programs that we usually wouldn't get to see. And that's a fun drive up there, up 27, beautiful drive as you're heading towards the mountains up there. So that's where that's really exciting.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were looking for because we really enjoyed the experience we had last year. First time doing a jamboree scrimmage that we did down at Model, because it's a number one, it gets everybody excited. You get a better crowd than just a scrimmage crowd because you get 3 or 4 schools with their crowd bases there, so you get kind of some full stands. But you also get a couple different looks, a couple different defenses, a couple different offenses. And you play about a quarter or so against each one. And it's just a good way to see where you are, get some good film uploaded for evaluation on ourselves and our guys individually. So it's going to be a good setup there, good competition with all those teams. So yeah, really excited about that because that's exactly what we were looking for. Like I said, not just a regular scrimmage. We were looking specifically for a jamboree setup. Had got some contacts on my old offensive line coach from LaGrange College is up there. So, good to know people in the right places. And he called me about it and said they were looking. So we got it worked out.
That's nice. Coach Shantz, Bradley Central will also be at that out of the Cleveland area in Tennessee, Ray County, just north of Chattanooga on 27, and then Clinton, which is up in the Knoxville area. So all 3 Tennessee teams. I think this will be the first time in program history that we've ever played any Tennessee team in varsity football action, albeit not a regular season game or counting towards our regular season record. But that's fun. I've talked to a couple other coaches in the Northwest Georgia area who love using these preseason games to kind of get some teams on the schedule that you otherwise wouldn't see. So it's really exciting to get an opportunity to do that. So that'll be August 7th at Ray County. More details as that date gets a little closer as we get into preseason camp. But that does finalize our 2026 schedule with our full regular season schedule as well as that Dalton preseason game. So, so lots of activities and stuff coming up here in the next couple of weeks and months with Coahulla Creek football. As I mentioned, just to recap, next Tuesday, we have our reverse raffle with your chance to win $10,000. If you haven't gotten in on that, tickets are $100. There's several other cash prizes and gift cards that you can win throughout the night. Our golf tournament coming up on April 23rd. Our fishing tournament coming up on May 16th. We'll have spring ball getting ready to go for our incoming freshmen, which is the second year that we've done that. That'll be just our 8th graders who are coming into freshman year next year out of North Whitfield. We'll be back to talk and kind of hype that up in May. So coming up here in a few weeks deeper into the spring. And by that point, I mean, it'll be almost football season. It's crazy how fast it goes every year. It goes by so quick. And as I mentioned, 150 days till kickoff. So, Coach, thank you for your time today. And this is it's going to be a fun off season. I know there's a lot of excitement built into this off season with how we finished the year last year, and a lot of expectations and excitement going into the next year.
Yeah, because the way I keep phrasing it to some folks is we obviously have some holes to fill that, some of those holes are really big shoes to fill. But you also have some really big shoes coming back in some key spots. But maybe more importantly, I feel like us as a coaching staff and the players really learned something about ourselves down the stretch last year of figuring out some confidence in ourselves and in our program and some belief that we needed, and how to approach some things and how to come into games. So that's exciting. And I mentioned the compete theme, trying to use that and kind of blend all those things together to maximize how we finish the season, and how do we roll that in and make us have the best team that we can possibly have going into 26.
That's right. For Coach Drew Carter, I'm Brooks Carter. This has been a production of Coahulla Creek Football. We'll see you next time on CreekCast.